Well, hello, good morning, and welcome back to Here Today, Where Tomorrow. My name's Rob, and in today's episode, we are going to do a deep dive into the Sky Princess. So I recently had my first cruise ever with Princess Cruise Line aboard the Sky Princess. It left out of Fort Lauderdale, and we went to the ports of Cozumel, Cox and Hole, Honduras, Belize, and Costa Maya. But I did not go alone. I was joined by Patrick from PMB's Wide World of Ports and Jason from Memories with Facebook Jason. Both are YouTubers and great friends of mine. So we spent a week aboard this beautiful ship, and overall I would say we had an absolute blast of a time. Not only with each other, anyways. Okay, no, that's not how we're gonna start this video. Overall, we really did enjoy our time aboard the Sky Princess. Today, I kind of want to dive in a little bit deeper than what I did in the vlogs and give you kind of an overview and review of what I liked, what I didn't like, and maybe what I learned with Princess Cruises to help you on your next cruise, either with Princess or another cruise line. One thing I want to start out with is embarkation. That's where every cruise really begins, so let's start there. One thing I really did like about Princess in general was the use of their medallions. For embarkation's sake, if you are going on a Princess cruise and you send them all of your information pre-cruise, they will ship you your medallion. Now, most cruise lines like Norwegian, MSC, or Carnival will give you a physical card when you get to embarkation or after embarkation on the ship. Well, that's not the case with Princess. They will either hand this to you at embarkation, or if you've done all of your paperwork and filled everything out, they will mail this to you pre-cruise. So they have two lanes. They have a green lane and a blue lane, and whichever one you are in, whether you've done your information or not, then you can kind of skip the rigmarole of having to give them all that information. Now, this was not only your sail and sign card, this was your key to your room, this was anything you wanted to purchase on board, this little medallion. Now, there are a couple of different options. I'll pop this bad boy out. This medallion is actually magnetic. It actually says your name on it and the ship and date, so it's almost like a little memorabilia you can take home as well. Now, you can buy wearables to put this on a bracelet or something like that. You can put a clip and clip it to your clothes. This little medallion holder here was just kind of the standard that they gave us, and we didn't feel the need to upgrade anything because I usually take these. Let me get this back in here. They don't want it to fall out, so they make it kind of hard. We'll get into the tech side of this a little bit later when we talk about the ship. But embarkation, with the technology that we had, all of us, Patrick, Jason, and I, did have our medallions. Thanks, Jason, for taking the delivery of that. We were able to skip ahead and jump right in. It was an absolute breeze of a time once we got in the terminal. Now, outside the terminal was a little bit of a different story. Patrick and I came in the day before and stayed in a hotel because we are out-of-staters, whereas Jason lives in Florida, so he actually took the Brightline train from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale. So Patrick and I shared a hotel room that night. The morning of embarkation, we got in a Uber and drove there. And the way to get into the port, where they have the drop-off and pickup locations for any sort of rideshare, was an absolute mess, nightmare. So our Uber driver actually tried to drive into the parking garage and then had to make an illegal U-turn to then leave and then go the path that it's very confusing, it's very difficult. It was not easily marked, and Patrick and Jason on debarkation had a hell of a time getting picked up by a rideshare. In fact, they had 2 or 3 rideshares cancel them both. Like 2 people per, so 4 people canceled because the drop-off and pickup location for ride shares at that port is not easily defined nor findable. I don't know. It was not a very good time. We stood outside of the terminal in the Florida heat for quite a long time. One suggestion for anyone that's watching that works there, if they could put some of those big fans outside where everyone lines up just to get some air movement, that would have been a world of a difference. Unfortunately, there was no air movement. And so from the moment I got out of the Uber and stood in line for about an hour and a half before they opened up the terminal, I turned into a sweaty hot mess because I had a 40-pound backpack full of camera gear and laptops and chargers and what a mess. But that's okay. Once we got in the terminal, we breezed right through. Because we had pre-done the paperwork, we got in the right lane, and it was awesome. Now, because Jason had elite status, he and Patrick went up to like the premium area upstairs, and they were able to get on the ship before I was, which is fine. It wasn't really that big of a deal, and I was only maybe 10 or 15 minutes behind them. By the time I got on the ship, they were just sitting down at the buffet, so it even wasn't like they were that far ahead of me, even though I technically wasn't part of the elite little group, because you could only bring one person with you to the elite lounge or whatnot, which I think it was just an area upstairs. I don't even think it was like a lounge per se. One thing that I thought was really cool was the gangway was so short, and I don't know if this is that port specific, this ship specific, whatever it was. Usually when you get on a ship and you go from the terminal to the ship, the gangway, you do this back and forth to get up to the level you need to. Well, on the Sky Princess, there was no back and forth. It was literally you walk in and you walk straight to the ship. It was at a slight incline, and that was it. It was super easy, the shortest gangway ever, and then we were, boom, right there in the piazza. It was wonderful. Absolutely loved it. So embarkation was relatively smooth. I would say it's probably somewhere in the middle. This was, I believe, my 20th cruise. And so in all of the cruises, I would say that this embarkation process was probably one of the easier ones. Maybe not the easiest, because we did have to wait outside, and the kind of delivery pickup of ride shares was a bit muddled. Outside of that, it was mostly a good experience. Now, debarkation, I had a transfer that I had booked through Princess Cruise Lines, so I was like first off the ship. I was supposed to be leaving at 7:30. However, when I walked by the gangway at 6:15, it was open and people were standing there ready to check people out. Now, nobody was going down the gangway, but it was open, and so I asked, like, can we leave? And they were like, yeah. And so I think they see it as, when it gets busy, I'd much rather have less people on the ship. So let's go ahead and dismiss anyone that's just walking by that wants to leave. Let them go. Don't make them wait. Don't make them hold. As long as they've been cleared by customs, etc., get off the ship. That way, when it is 7:30, 8 o'clock, and people are starting to come in droves, we have one less person to contend with, or 100, or 1,000 less people to contend with. Because I did have a transfer, we were supposed to meet at 7:30. But I was able to get off super fast. They had already pulled off my luggage because I had a transfer. I had a different color tag than most other people. And so that denoted that when they pulled my bags off the ship, because I checked my bags the night before, that I was in this transfer. So I was one of the first 3 groups of luggage that was set out and ready to go. So by the time I got off the ship and walked into the terminal, my bag was waiting there. They said, hey, wait a second, we're still unloading a few things for this last group, which was the group I was in. And they said, okay, grab your bags, go get on a bus. Walked up and I said, they goes, are you going to Miami? You going to Fort Lauderdale? I said, I'm going to Miami. He said, okay, get on that bus right there. I got on that bus. I was the first one on the bus. I waited 10 minutes. The bus filled up and we left. All in all, I think I probably spent, from leaving my room to sitting on a bus waiting for us to head to the airport, less than 20 minutes. It was super, super fast, super easy debarkation. There was no mess, there was no fuss, there was no you need to do this or that. I didn't have to jump through any hoops. I didn't have to wait for anything. It was awesome. That was one of the best debarkations I've had. Very similar to the Magnifica one I did back in December, where I was the 4th person off of the ship real early. Now, just recently we got off the Norwegian Bliss, and we actually just hung around the ship, had breakfast, and leisurely got off the ship, and that was awesome as well. So if you don't have to rush, don't. Okay, don't get out of the room till you need to. Don't just go to breakfast in the buffet or do the main dining room if it's open. Sit down, have a nice breakfast, and by the time you say, you know what, maybe we should get off, you're gonna walk right off. There's no crowds, there's like a lull period before and after. There's the super early people who can get right off because you gotta go. You gotta transfer, you gotta whatever it is, you just get and go. Then there's like this super busy time where people kind of have to get, but maybe it's a later flight and they have to get to their car and they're driving home across the state or they're driving across state lines. So then there's this big group of people that go from 8 to 9:30. But if you could wait and have, breakfast at 9:30 and you start walking down at 9:45, you're gonna walk right off. It's gonna be super easy and super simple. So either get off super early or wait and then get off later, and it's gonna be a world of difference. We've left out of a ton of different ports in the United States, and the setup for the pickup and drop off of passengers in this area was atrocious. So they really need to work on that. I do want to take this moment to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I have done tons of different cruises across many different cruise lines, and we have many more to tackle in the future. So please, if you like cruising or any sort of cruising content, go ahead and like this video, and I would invite you to subscribe to the channel. Looking at analytics, less than half of you subscribe to the channel, but you do come back. So do me a favor and go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, please. It makes a world of a difference for me, and it allows me to continue to bring this cruising content to you and give you the best of my knowledge and ability to help you prepare for your next cruise or just to entertain you. So like I said earlier, the ports of call we did was Cozumel, Cox and Hole, Belize, and Costa Maya. For me personally, and this is only for me, the ship is the destination. Now, at times, I will go to certain ports and I will do some sort of excursion or experience. I don't have the money financially to do an excursion in every port that we go to because I'd much rather be on a ship. And so for example, we had 4 ports. If you do an excursion at every single one of these ports, you're gonna spend at least $300, $400, $500. That's a whole nother cruise for me. So I would much rather go on a second cruise than do a catamaran in Cozumel or a tasting in Cox and Hole. For me, personally, the ship is the destination. Now we go to these ports, you get off, you walk around, have some local food, do some local shopping, support the local economy, and then we get back on the ship to enjoy the real reason that I am here, which is the ship. There are some exceptions to that. If you're into scuba diving and you go to Belize, it's a great place to scuba dive the barrier reef. I am not scuba certified, nor do I really want to be. So that doesn't appeal to me. And Belize, for a port, if all you're doing is just going to the port, there's really nothing there. You'd have to leave port to go do something. Whereas the port of Costa Maya has a lot of things. Cox and Hole has even surprised me when we were there with their new pool, beach, lounging area with the swim-up bar. That was all new from the last time I was there just over a year ago. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of different ports that have things to do in the port to keep you in port. And offer free activities like a pool, like at Grand Turk. You have the pool in Grand Turk, like the pool at Costa Maya. And then you have these activities that you could do, like I did in Costa Maya, that are a small fee, $14, to go up into the treetop aviary and kind of explore that and see the dolphins, etc. It's really neat little experience, but it didn't cost a lot of money. I didn't have to leave the port area, so there was no fuss or mess about that. And I got to experiencing something new. So that's kind of the port experience that I like more. Not everybody wants to go spend $150 to go to the beach. I was born and raised in Florida, so physically going to a beach full of sand is of zero importance to me. There is no beach in the world that I want to go to at all. Okay, like if I never saw a beach again, I would probably be pretty good. Call me Anakin Skywalker. I hate sand. It's coarse. It gets everywhere. It's okay. It's fine. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into these individual ports and let's kind of talk about some of the things I liked, didn't like, and maybe learned in these ports of call. So first off, Cozumel. Like I said, we went to the International Cruise Terminal, which was a new terminal for me, but it did have a lot of the basic things that every cruise terminal did. Once we left the cruise terminal, we found some local entertainment. They did the Mayan dance, the traditional rain dance, where they climbed up on the pole and then they spun around slowly while they were playing music, playing drums, etc. And then we went to a local restaurant and enjoyed some tacos, some nachos, and a Mexican Coca-Cola, which of course was delicious, before we did some more shopping and got back on the ship. The next port of call was Coxen Hole, which is in Honduras. Now, originally on the docket, we were supposed to go to Mahogany Bay, which is Carnival Cruise Line's private area in Honduras. And if you don't know, Princess is technically owned by the Carnival Corporation, so they would share that. They do share a lot of islands. Princess Key, Half Moon Cay, Mahogany Bay, these are all private to Carnival Cruise Lines, but any of the Carnival Cruise Line Corporation ships will go to those ports. So originally we were supposed to go to Mahogany Bay, which I was super excited about because I've never been to Mahogany Bay. Unfortunately, they did change that, and we went to the next port, which is a couple of miles south of that, which was Coxen Hole. Now, the last time I was in Coxen Hole was on the Norwegian Breakaway for the Vlogger Extravaganza, which is in fact where I met Patrick from P&B's Wide World of Ports, among many other vlogger friends. And I wasn't really impressed with Coxen Hole. All it was just a row of shops, and then you left the port. And when you left port, you better have something to do because it was kind of a sketchy area. At the time, it was really just a run-down exit to a port, unfortunately. Now, I'm glad to report that there's so much more at Coxen Hole now. They have a whole pool area, they have a swim-up bar, they have a whole lounge, palm tree, beach area that you can lay out in, as well as all those shops. And it did seem like they have some street or road or path to now take you into the old town, which sounded really cool. We didn't get time to do that because we spent a lot of time in the port kind of filming some of the new stuff. But that's really cool. I love it when ports provide something in port to do that doesn't cost money, like jumping in the pool or laying out on some, chairs or whatnot. I really do enjoy that style of port, that where someone like me, where the cruise ship is the destination, they give the option to get off and do something that's free or costs very little money. I don't have to leave the port. I don't have to worry about passports, identification, anything like that. I am within the safety of the port area. So I did like that. The next one was Belize. Now, Belize City, Belize is a tender port, which means you have to get off the big ship, get on a little boat or a ship, and then head into whatever the island, etc. is. We did this in Cabo. We've done this at Princess Key. There are many islands where you do have to tender in. It's a fun experience, which is the reason we went. Patrick did have some specific shopping. There's a guy there that does some slate carvings that anytime they go there, him and his family get one. So we were on the hunt for that guy, and but I really do enjoy the riding on the smaller boat. Belize is kind of a missed port for me. We've been there a couple of times, and pretty much every time we've got off, looked at some shops, maybe bought something, and then got back on the ship. So just a way to stretch our legs and get some steps in. And then lastly, personally, one of my favorite ports is Costa Maya. I love Costa Maya. I've been there a bajillion times, and it's great. It's a long walk, so you get a lot of steps in. It's hot, so you get some exercise. You definitely, you definitely sweat. They have some great shopping there, but they also have their massive pool, which is free. You can just go there and experience it. They have dolphin encounters and experiences that you could pay for, but if you're not, you can just kind of stand on the sidelines and watch the dolphins and the trainers play. They'll throw a ball back and forth, which is really cool. And then something that I've always wanted to do, over by the flamingos, which is a very popular spot. You can go take pictures next to these flamingos for free. That's where the aviary is, and it sends you up into the treetops and the top of the buildings, and you do these suspension bridges kind of all over the port area. I've always wanted to do that, and I always thought it was more expensive than it actually was. It was like $14, $16 or something for me to go up there and just have in as much time as I wanted. Saw some amazing birds, got some amazing views. That was absolutely worth every penny I paid for it. So if you're in Costa Maya, go to the Aquarius area where the flamingos are, and then go up into the aviary and spend I don't know, an hour walking around looking at all these birds and stuff. It's such a great time. But Costa Maya has tons of restaurants. They got swim up bars at the pool area. They have a ton of shopping, whether it's Diamonds International, Carry Loha, all those brand ones. And then they also have a lot of independent or local handmade crafts and things like that as well. There's live music, there's live performers all through the area and stuff. So it's such a great port. It is a perfect place to experience the day, just to get out, get some steps in. And honestly, it's one of my favorite ports. I think it's a great starter port. If you've never experienced a port before and you're intimidated by leaving the port area, then Costa Maya is one of the best. I would also say some of the private islands like Princess Key or Half Moon Cay with Carnival, stuff like that, those are also really great. Grand Turk is another one of my favorites. They have another pool area that you can just go hang out at. And so a lot of those places are just really cool. So, all right, I think that's going to wrap it up for the ports of call. Next, onto the ship. Now, as far as the ship goes, I would say I really did enjoy the layout. One qualm I have with a lot of these newer ships, they don't have, because they've made the ship bigger, but they have to stay within some constraints, they don't have a wraparound deck anymore. I love to chase the sunrises and the sunset, and sometimes I just don't have access to do so. I love watching us leaving port, and sometimes I have to be on the top deck, so I can't even look down and see them dropping ropes and things because it's so far away, just to be outside on a deck looking down. So this ship was kind of like that. There was one area we did find later on that allowed us some access to the outside, but it was a very small, limited side. One side was the smoking section area. The other side was not. So, and it was only a little bit of the rear part of the ship. So that kind of sucks, but that's kind of the new age of cruise ships that are being built, is they don't have those big extended walk around decks anymore. So a little bit of sad on that part. But I would say overall the layout was pretty good. This style of cruising, Princess style of cruising, definitely surrounds the piazza a lot. Okay, a lot of stuff happened in the piazza. They had live musicians all the time in the piazza. A lot of the events, the games and stuff like that the entertainment staff put on was taking place in the piazza. The International Cafe, they had Vines, the wine bar. They had another piazza bar. They had a lot of stuff right around there. The pizza joint was right there. The sushi place was right there. Everything was kind of right there around the piazza. And so if you were at the piazza, you could pretty much get anywhere pretty quickly. It did lack a lot of the family cruise amenities. There wasn't a splash pad. There wasn't a water park. There were no water slides. Obviously, Princess Cruise Lines is more of an older type clientele, so they don't have all that stuff. So I would say they have less amenities, but they probably have more bars. They have more seating. They have more areas to do ballroom dancing. They have more entertainment areas because that's the clientele, what the clientele that they wants. So, you know, it's to be expected. I wouldn't say that it was a negative, but if you're expecting to go on a Princess ship and ride a water slide, the Sky Princess is not going to be for you. One thing I did love about this ship was the use of these medallions. So this has an NFC chip on it, and as you approach your cabin, it will automatically unlock your door. So you just immediately walk right up. If you got a handful of stuff, you don't have to worry about it. There's no fumbling with a key. Let me push it, whatever. The majority of the time, it unlocked the door right away. If not, you would just hold your medallion up to the screen and it would unlock the door then from there. Now, it's funny because Patrick walks really fast. He's tall and has very long legs. I'm tall, but I'm fat. So I'm fast, but not as fast. And then Jason is short and out of breath a lot because of his heart condition. So he was quite far behind me. And then Patrick was quite far before me. And so Patrick would automatically unlock the door. And then he would go in the door would close, and then I would approach the door. And it's like, well, I just unlocked the door. I'm not going to unlock the door again. So then I would have to pull out my medallion, put it there, fumble with it. And then by that time, Jason will have caught up with me. And then I am able to get in and we all go in at the same time or whatever. Me and Jason go in at the same time. So Really cool use of this medallion. Same thing with the bars. You walk up to the bar, there is some sort of near field communication type thing, and they have their little screen. And so I would say, hey, can I get a Choco Banana Split smoothie or whatever? And are you Rob? You know, because it's got a picture of me and everything. And, yep, that's me. And that wouldn't have to show them anything. I wouldn't have to give them anything. There was no exchange half the time. It was really nice when it worked. It didn't always work, but I feel like for the majority of the time it did, and it was totally worth the hassle sometimes when it wasn't. So I really do like this. Now, I am a sucker for collectibles. These are all of the cruise ships that I have been on. These are all the cards. We have Norwegian, we have MSC, we have a ton of Carnival from my second cruise on from Carnival. So I do collect those cards. So having this medallion is not as collectible as the cards, but I feel like this is the way we're heading. And so I think I'm just going to have to retire the cards, if you will. But that was really, really cool. I feel like again, this clientele, a lot of sitting down with your friends, you know, having a drink, playing cards. There was a lot of tables and chairs that were comfortable, that were large, that had great table space, and I really did appreciate that. So it makes sense for the clientele that you want, but it's those details that make the enjoyment a little bit better. So I did find that to be really, really cool. So now let's talk about the crew and the staff. We had a great experience with this crew. In fact, something I mentioned many times in the vlog series was join a Facebook group. If you join a Facebook group for your specific sailing, there's a lot of power in that group. You can sometimes have 400 or 500 people in that group, 900 people in that group that are on the sailing with you, which is such a great experience to have those friends that you've made on Facebook pre-cruise, and then you show up on the cruise and you're already great friends with 1,000 people. You know, it's such a great experience to do so. So if you are going to go on a cruise, I highly suggest getting involved in a Facebook group for your specific sailing. But because we were really, really involved, we ended up getting a private meet and greet with the entire senior staff and the cruise director, Georgia, who was an absolute peach. What an absolutely amazing experience to stand next to the captain of the vessel, the man of the hour, the myth, the legend. It was an absolutely amazing experience just to chat with him, you know, talk to him. Hey, what do you do? Oh, you're the, you know, hotel manager. So, you know, how many loads of laundry do you guys do every day? You know, I mean, oh, you're the food manager. How many pounds of shrimp do you go through? You know, like, just how many shrimp cocktails do you guys make in a day? 3,000 shrimp cocktails you make every day? You know, like, just fun stuff. And that was the power of our Facebook group getting together with the crew, and they were 100% open and honest. I had great conversations. Obviously, I'm vlogging it, so I had many cameras and things, and so a couple of the senior staff came up to me and said, oh, is that the 360 cam? How do you like it? Blah, blah, blah. So we talked a great deal about camera and tech and things like that, which I love doing. The crew was absolutely wonderful. Our stateroom attendant knew us all by name almost immediately, and so he was all over it. Anything we asked for, he gave to us. Our food staff was really good throughout the entire trip. Anything that we needed, any special requests we had, they were pretty good. There was a couple of times in the main dining room where we would order things and they were not brought. Didn't know if they got lost in translation, they didn't hear us or what, but there were quite a few times where things were forgotten in the main dining rooms. And so that was kind of a downside, if you will. But for the most part, the crew was super friendly and on point. Now let's talk about the food. To be honest, it had good options, but it was poor execution, and the quality was at times missed. One of my favorite parts of cruising is the food. I enjoy trying food that I normally wouldn't want to pay for fear of not liking it. And so on a cruise, you have the ability to try crazy dishes you've never tried before because it doesn't cost you anything. It's included in the fare. And so there were times where I ordered cauliflower soup. I wouldn't normally order cauliflower soup. I've never had it before. Or I would order this random dish I've never heard of before. I don't even know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to try it. and it turned out to be really good. Well, a lot of the times, like I said, in the crew being a little bit forgetful but friendly, the food options, they had many food options. They were plentiful as far as the options go, but the quality and execution was not there for me. I would say this was probably one of the most bland food cruise that I've ever been on, which is disappointing. Everyone told me that Carnival, which I'm platinum with, that this is a step up from Carnival. And I could see that being true for many things. But I did not feel that way with the food. I felt like the food was quite a step down. When the food was good, it was on par with the other cruise lines I've been on. When the food wasn't good, it was the worst cruise food I've ever had. We did the Italian specialty dining, Sabatini's. It took over 2 hours and was one of the worst specialty dinings I've ever had, ever. It was by far the worst Italian restaurant I've ever eaten at. I've said this in many previous videos. This was a huge complaint I had on the Magnifica. Eggs Benedict was nowhere to be found. And when it was found, it was terrible. It was the worst Eggs Benedict I've ever had. A poached egg should not be cooked all the way through. It was a hard-boiled egg on top of the rubberiest English muffin I've ever had. And I gave it quite a few shots, and every time I was sorely disappointed. But I've had better food on every other cruise ship that I've ever been on. Every MSC ship has been better, every Norwegian ship had been better, and every Carnival ship from the Paradise to the brand new Celebration had been better. This was probably some of the worst cruise food that I've had when it wasn't good. Which wasn't all the time. It was a very small percentage when it wasn't good. But I expected more from a more premium Carnival cruise line. So it was okay. And that's what I'm going to say about the food. We never got to try Alfredo's pizza, but comparing Slice, which is their free pizza option, it was good. They had some very interesting pizza choices. They would do specials every day, and they would be very random. One had tuna and peppers on it, and the other had a seafood medley on it, and it's very interesting. They're it's almost like, hey, whatever we have the most of left over from yesterday, we'll put on the pizza today, kind of thing, which wasn't bad. But again, not the best pizza at sea. MSC still got that beat, hands down, can't even touch it. No one can. I looked at Alfredo's pizza many times, and none of it ever seemed appetizing enough to spend the money when, again, there was free pizza already on the ship. For me, I enjoy cruising. I want to pay up front what I want to pay, and then I don't want to pay anything else. Because, again, the more I save on this cruise, the more I could put towards another cruise sooner. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Now let's go on to the entertainment. We're going to talk about a couple of different types of entertainment here. Let's start with the just kind of around the ship entertainment. There was a live musician in the piazza almost all day long, whether it was the steel drums guy, there was a whole entourage band that played, the violin and cello couple. There was always something going on in piazza live music. Out on deck parties, they had that whole band out there doing the Back to the 80s deck party. So it's not a DJ pushing a button, pretending to DJ. It was a full-fledged band singing the whole night long these songs, and it was super impressive. I was really impressed with the entertainment aboard the Sky Princess. The shows were amazing. They did fill in, they didn't have a production show every night, but the production shows they did have were amazing, okay? Rock opera, a little heavy on the Greatest Showman soundtrack, but also had opera, like legit opera in a different language. I was so thankful for that. Five Skies was a super cool, gamified, technology, tech-heavy show, production show that I loved. I thoroughly enjoyed that, especially being a gamer myself. I thought that was a really cool concept. And, you know, saving the Sky Princess, or on the Sky Princess, really cool. And the other production show, the Spotlight Bar, was amazing. Great vocals, live band, live music, top of the line choreography. It was amazing. Production shows were great. So they filled in one of the nights with a comedian. Then they had like a one-woman rock show. Only popped in and heard a song or two and then had to leave. But it sounded pretty good. And then lastly, they had the pianist, who was kind of a comedian, piano type, one-man band kind of thing with the live music band as well, which was awesome. He was really funny and very entertaining. So overall, I would say the entertainment across the board was better than most carnival ship entertainments. This ship had some of the best shows that I've seen at sea, for sure, especially from under the carnival umbrella. So that was really great. I really did enjoy the entertainment. I've done a lot of carnival cruising. I've done quite a few MSC ships. I've done a few Norwegian, and this was my first Princess. So if we compare Princess to Norwegian, MSC, and Carnival, it definitely depends on who you are and what you want. For me personally, going solo or with my friends, I felt like Princess had some really great options. The entertainment was really good. The food was kind of hit or miss. The layout of the ship was nice, but it didn't have a lot of the family amenities. If I was going with my family, I would probably lean more towards the Carnival or the MSC or the Norwegian, because they have the splash pads, they have the water slides, they have a lot more activities. Norwegian's got go-karts and laser tag and things like that. So there's a lot more stuff to do on those more family-focused cruise lines. So if you have a family, I would probably lean more towards that. Food-wise, MSC is some of the best cruise food I've ever had. The Meraviglia had its own mozzarella cheese bar that they made fresh mozzarella at all the time, and I'm a big guy, and so that speaks to me in another language. So, you know, food-wise, I enjoy Carnival. I enjoy MSC immensely. Norwegian always has some really great 24-hour options, and so that was really good. So entertainment-wise, I would say that it was better than your basic Carnival. Food-wise, it was on par or a little worse than most of the other cruise lines I've been on. The ship layout, I think Carnival has a couple better ships, but they are getting older. Better layout ships, but they are getting older, so you're going to kind of mix with that. MSC's got a couple of their newer ships that are much cleaner and prettier. The Meraviglia, to me, is one of the most beautiful ships I've ever seen inside and out. So there's that. And then as far as like embarkation and debarkation processes, Princess definitely had the best options for getting on and off the ship. Putting in all your information before, getting a leg up or getting a step ahead was really, really cool. Using the medallion, sending those out pre-cruise was really, really neat. I definitely think that Princess has a place. I would definitely do a Princess again. I have no qualms. I just probably wouldn't bring my kid. If I had my kid with me, I definitely would not choose Princess, just for the sheer fact is they don't have the same amenities that most of the other cruise lines do. But if it was just me again, me and my wife, me and some buddies, I definitely liked the chiller vibe of Princess. And again, their entertainment was really, really top notch. So I think that's going to be my wrap up and review. If there's anything else I could think of, or if you have any other questions, comments, go ahead and drop them down below. I will answer every question as fast as I possibly can. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up for me here on our Sky Princess deep dive and review. My name's Rob with Here Today, Where Tomorrow, and we will see you there. If you like this video and want to see more, please head on over to the channel and subscribe. And if you want to get notified, ring that little bell. We upload new videos every week.